I caught my wife's lover in room 712 and it changed everything. Picture this. You've built a life you're proud of, sweat, grit, and years of grinding. Then, in one gut punch moment, it all unravels. That's where my story begins, and trust me, it's a wild ride. If this story stirred something in your heart, give it a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to Revenge Forge, where every story reminds us that pain can lead to power. My name's Joel Candler, a 46-year-old real estate investor in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've got a solid life, a colonial-style house with a wraparound porch, a blacked-out Range Rover in the driveway, and a bank account that hums along at about $750,000 a year. Not bad for a guy who started flipping fixer-uppers in his 20s. But the real anchor of my world was Jocelyn, my wife of 12 years. She's 38, a marketing manager, with a smile that could light up a boardroom, and a laugh that made every bad day feel fixable. We didn't have kids not by choice, just never happened. But we had each other. Late-night takeout binge-watching true crime docs, sneaking kisses during her yoga stretches in the living room. That was us. Or so I thought. It started with the little things. You know how it goes, those cracks you barely notice until they're canyons. Jocelyn started locking her phone screen when I walked into the room. She'd laugh it off, say it was work stuff, but her eyes darted away too fast. Then came the late nights. Client dinner, she'd say, slipping out in heels that screamed more date night than boardroom. I'd nod, sip my bourbon, and tell myself I was being paranoid. But the vibe shifted. Our cozy evenings turned into her needing space behind a closed office door. By 10 p.m., she'd be texting furiously, claiming it was her friend Megan, someone I'd never met. I'm not the jealous type. Never was. I built my business on gut instinct and cold logic, not wild accusations. But when I found her work ID badge on the kitchen counter at 2 a.m., when she was supposedly pulling an all-nighter at the office, something snapped. I started digging. First, I checked our shared calendar. She'd marked team meeting for a Friday night at a downtown hotel. Odd. Then I pulled our credit card statements. A $450 charge for a suite at the Grand Meridian Hotel booked under her name. My heart sank, but my brain kicked into overdrive. I cross-checked her phone's location history. Yeah, I know the passcode, she never changed it. At 8 p.m. that Friday, her dot was glowing right at the Grand Meridian, not her office. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable, so I hacked into her email. Don't judge. You'd do it too if your world was crumbling. There it was, a confirmation for room 712 reserved for Jocelyn and guest. The guest, a name I didn't recognize but would never forget, Damon Lasky. A quick LinkedIn search painted the picture: 42, slick-talking real estate attorney, all polished suits and smug headshots. My blood boiled, but I kept it cool. I'm Joel Candler. I don't scream, I plan. Friday night, I told Jocelyn I was meeting a client across town. She barely looked up from her phone, muttering something about her team meeting. I drove straight to the Grand Meridian, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The hotel lobby was all marble and dim lights, the kind of place that screams money and secrets. I'd swiped a spare keycard from Jocelyn's purse earlier, she hadn't noticed. Heart pounding, I took the elevator to the 7th floor. Room 712. I stood outside listening. Laughter. Her laughter. And a man's voice, low and smug. I swiped the card and pushed the door open. There they were. Jocelyn and Damon tangled up on the king-sized bed, champagne flutes on the nightstand, clothes strewn across the floor like they couldn't wait to betray me. The air smelled of her perfume and his cologne. They froze when they saw me, but Jocelyn's face wasn't shock, it was defiance. Joel, she said, cool as ice, pulling the sheet over herself. How'd you find me? How'd I find her? Like I was the one sneaking around. Damon just smirked, leaning back like he owned the damn room. I didn't yell, didn't throw punches. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo clear as day, their faces, the bed, the whole sordid scene. You'll hear from my lawyer, I said, voice steady. Then I walked out the door, clicking shut behind me like a gunshot. Back in my Range Rover, I sat there, engine off, staring at the hotel's glowing sign. 15 years with Jocelyn, anniversaries in Napa, lazy Sundays with coffee and crosswords, her head on my chest during thunderstorms. Gone. I didn't cry. I don't cry. But my chest felt like it had been hollowed out with a dull knife. Then I shifted gears, literally and figuratively. If Jocelyn thought she could play me, she was about to learn who she married. By 7 a.m. the next morning, I was in my home office, laptop open, moving chess pieces. Step 1, protect my money. I opened a new bank account and transferred $200,000 from our joint savings half so she couldn't cry foul. I froze our investment accounts. My name's on every deed, every portfolio. Step 2, I called my lawyer Rachel Holt, a pit bull in a pencil skirt who'd handled my business contracts for years. Rachel, I said I need a divorce, and I need to win. I sent her the photo, the credit card statements, the email confirmation. She didn't flinch. Joel, this is airtight. She's got no leverage. Jocelyn came home at 10 a.m., acting like nothing happened. Late night at work, she said, tossing her purse on the counter. I just stared at her, that familiar face, now a stranger's. Save it, I said, and walked out to meet Rachel. No point in arguing with someone who'd already checked out of our marriage. Rachel laid it out clean. North Carolina's a no-fault state, but infidelity still matters when it comes to alimony. With my evidence, Jocelyn wouldn't see a dime of spousal support. The house, our biggest asset at $850,000, would be sold and split 50-50. My investments, $2.3 million in properties and stocks, were mostly in my name, untouchable. She screwed herself, Rachel said, almost smiling. Keep digging. Get more. So I did. I hired a private investigator, Nate Carver, a former cop with a knack for sniffing out dirt. Cost me $5,000 up front, but worth every penny. Nate tailed Jocelyn and Damon for a week. The report came back like a punch to the gut: dinners at steakhouses, weekend getaways to Asheville, a $2,500 bracelet charged to our joint Amex. Damon wasn't just a fling, he was a lifestyle. Nate even got photos: Jocelyn laughing in Damon's Porsche, their hands all over each other at a rooftop bar. Every image burned, but it fueled me. I wasn't the guy who'd roll over. Then Nate dropped a bomb. Damon wasn't just cheating with Jocelyn, he was stringing along a paralegal from his firm, a 30-year-old named Vanessa. Nate hacked into Damon's burner phone. Don't ask me how. Guy's a wizard, and found texts. Damon telling Vanessa he'd leave Jocelyn soon. Jocelyn telling her friend Haley that Damon was the one. And Haley, bless her, spilling tea about how Jocelyn called me predictable and too busy with work to notice. Oh, I noticed. I sat on that intel like a loaded gun. Didn't fire yet. Timing's everything. Instead, I kept living my life, worked gym bourbon with my buddy Mike. Jocelyn kept up her act, texting me apologies one minute, then sneaking off to meet Damon the next. I didn't bite. Let her think Mao was clueless. Let her dig her own grave. One night I was at Mike's place, crashing on his couch after a few too many drinks. Revenge Forge, huh? Mike said, scrolling Reddit stories on his phone. You're living one of those, man. Guy finds his wife cheating, flips the script, comes out on top. I laughed, but it stuck with me. This wasn't just my pain. It was my story. And I was going to write the ending. By week 3, Nate had enough dirt to bury them both. Damon's paralegal Vanessa was starting to ask questions why he was always busy on weekends. Jocelyn's friend Haley was getting suspicious, texting her about rumors at work. I fed Rachel every scrap, texts, photos, receipts. She started drafting the divorce papers, but I told her to hold off. I wanted one more move. I called Nate. Find out where Damon's wife stands. Yeah, Damon was married too. Lauren Lasky, 40, a CPA with her own firm. Nate dug up her email, and I sent an anonymous tip, nothing vicious, just the truth. Photos of Damon and Jocelyn, time-stamped with a note: you deserve to know. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. 2 days later, Nate reported Lauren had kicked Damon out. His Porsche was parked at a motel off I-40. Good. Jocelyn didn't know I was behind it. She came home one night, eyes red, saying Damon was going through something. I just nodded, poured myself a coffee, and let her ramble. Every word she said was another nail in her coffin. She thought she was playing me, but I was playing chess while she was stuck on checkers. I woke up at 5 a.m., the kind of early where the world's still dark and your thoughts are louder than the silence. My loft apartment, temporary digs while the divorce played out, felt like a bunker. Exposed brick, minimalist furniture, a coffee machine humming on the counter. It wasn't home, not like the colonial I'd shared with Jocelyn, but it was mine. A fresh start. I hit the gym by 6 a.m., pushing 225 on the bench press, sweat dripping, mind racing. Every rep was fuel for what came next. Jocelyn and Damon thought they'd outsmarted me, but this was my board, my rules. Nate Carver, my PI, called at 8 a.m. sharp. "Got something you'll want to see," he said, voice low like he was delivering classified intel. He emailed me a folder, password protected, of course. Inside were screenshots of Jocelyn's private Instagram DMs with Haley, her so-called best friend. Jocelyn was spilling her guts. Joel's acting weird, but he doesn't know anything. Damon's worth it. Another message time-stamped 1 a.m. last night. "I'm meeting D at the lake house this weekend." Joel's too busy to notice. The lake house. Our lake house. A $650,000 property I'd bought as an investment and a getaway for us. The audacity hit like a freight train. She wasn't just cheating, she was using my assets to do it. I called Rachel Holt, my lawyer, before my coffee even cooled. "They're using the lake house," I said, forwarding Nate's report. Rachel didn't miss a beat. "That's a bold move. Also a stupid one. It's in your name, Joel, we can use this." She suggested filing a motion to restrict Jocelyn's access to joint properties during the divorce proceedings. "It's not just about the house," Rachel said. "It's about showing the court she's reckless with marital assets." I gave her the green light. No mercy. By noon, I was back at my office, a sleek corner suite overlooking Raleigh's skyline. My real estate empire, 15 properties, $12 million in total value, was my fortress. I'd built it from nothing, and I wasn't about to let Jocelyn's betrayal bleed me dry. I reviewed the lake house title, 100% in my name, purchased before we married. Jocelyn had no claim, but she was treating it like her personal love nest. I called Nate again. "I want eyes on that lake house this weekend. Photos, videos, whatever you can get." Friday came fast. I told Jocelyn I was flying to Atlanta for a property auction, another lie to keep her off guard. She bought it, even kissed me on the cheek before I left. Her perfume lingered, a cruel reminder of what we used to be. I didn't go to Atlanta. I checked into a motel 10 miles from the lake house, a gritty spot with flickering neon signs. Nate met me there at 7 p.m., his black SUV parked discreetly in the lot. "They're already there," he said, handing me binoculars. "Got a clear shot from the ridge." We hiked through the woods, pine needles crunching underfoot, until we reached a vantage point overlooking the lake house. The lights were on, curtains half drawn. Jocelyn and Damon were on the deck, wine glasses in hand, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. Nate set up a camera with a telephoto lens, capturing every detail: Damon's hand on her waist, her head thrown back in a giggle. I felt sick, but I didn't look away. This wasn't about pain anymore. It was about evidence. Nate's footage was gold. By Sunday, he had a 10-minute video: Jocelyn and Damon cooking in my kitchen, swimming in my lake, sleeping in my bed. He even caught audio through a parabolic mic: Damon bragging about dodging his wife and Jocelyn joking about upgrading from me. I sent it all to Rachel, who was practically salivating. "This is more than infidelity," she said. "This is misuse of marital property. We can push for sanctions." Monday morning, I upped the ante. I called a locksmith and had the lake house locks changed. Then I had a security system installed, cameras, motion sensors, the works. Cost me $8,500, but it was an investment in peace of mind. Jocelyn wouldn't set foot in there again without my say-so. I also had Nate dig deeper into Damon's life. His wife Lauren was already moving on, filing for divorce based on the anonymous tip I'd sent. But Nate found something else. Damon was under investigation at his law firm for irregular billing practices. Seems he'd been padding client invoices to fund his Playboy lifestyle, $15,000 here, $20,000 there. I didn't tip off the firm. Not yet. I wanted to save that card for the right moment. Jocelyn's behavior was unraveling. She started calling me multiple times a day, leaving voicemails that swung between tearful apologies and defensive rants. "Joel, I made a mistake," one message said, her voice breaking. "Can we talk another at 11 p.m.? You're being so cold. Why won't you just talk to me?" I didn't respond. Silence was my weapon. Let her stew in her own guilt. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. I started therapy not because I was broken, but because I wanted to be sharper, stronger. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, was a no-nonsense guy who looked like he could bench press me. "You're not grieving a marriage," he said in our first session. "You're grieving the version of her you thought you knew. Let that go and you'll find yourself." He was right. I wasn't just Joel Candler, betrayed husband. I was Joel Candler, The guy who'd turned a $50,000 loan into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. I'd survived worse than this. At the gym, I met a group of guys mid-40s like me, all with their own scars. Divorce, layoffs, midlife crises. We called ourselves the Iron Brotherhood, half joking, half serious. Over protein shakes, they shared their stories. One guy, Tom, had caught his wife cheating with his business partner. "I didn't just get even," he said, grinning. "I bought out his share of the company and fired him." Another, Greg, had rebuilt his life after his ex drained their savings. "Revenge isn't about screaming," he said. "It's about winning quietly." Their words stuck with me. This was my revenge forge story, and I was forging something new. Nate's next report came in like a lightning bolt. He'd tapped into Jocelyn's work email again. Don't ask how. She'd been venting to a coworker, Tara, about me. "Joel's so controlling," she wrote. "He's obsessed with his money. Damon gets me. Controlling me." The guy who'd given her free rein over our joint accounts, who'd trusted her with our life. The irony was thicker than the Raleigh humidity, but the real kicker was an email from Damon to Jocelyn, forwarded to Tara by mistake, "Babe. Once Joel's out of the picture, we can cash out that lake house. I know a guy who'll buy it under the table." I nearly smashed my laptop. Cash out my lake house. Damon was dumber than I thought. I called Rachel immediately. "They're planning to sell my property," I said, forwarding the email. Rachel's voice was steel. "This is fraud. We're adding it to the case." She filed an emergency motion to freeze all of Jocelyn's financial transactions pending the divorce. The judge approved it within 24 hours. Jocelyn's credit cards tied to our joint accounts stopped working. Her access to our investment apps locked. She was starting to feel the squeeze. I didn't stop there. I reached out to Haley, Jocelyn's friend, through a burner email. I posed as a concerned colleague and sent her screenshots of Jocelyn's DMs where she called Haley needy and jealous of my life with Damon. It wasn't cruel, it was strategic. Haley was Jocelyn's closest confidant, and I knew she'd flip. Sure enough, Nate reported a blowout fight between them at a coffee shop downtown. Haley stormed out, leaving Jocelyn in tears. One less ally for her. Damon was crumbling too. His firm suspended him pending the billing investigation thanks to a quiet tip from Nate to their ethics board. His Porsche was repossessed. Turns out he'd missed payments while blowing money on Jocelyn. Lauren, his wife, was relentless, hiring a shark of a lawyer who was already circling his assets. I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd made his bed. By now, Jocelyn was desperate. She showed up at my loft one night, 9 p.m., banging on the door. "Joel, please," she sobbed. "I messed up. I love you. I'll end it with him." Her mascara was running, her hair a mess. For a split second, I saw the woman I'd married, the one who'd danced with me at our wedding, who'd laughed at my terrible cooking. But that woman was gone. "You don't love me," I said, voice flat. "You love the life I gave you. That's over." I shut the door, her cries echoing in the hallway. The next day, I met Rachel at her office. She had the divorce papers ready, 60 pages of airtight arguments. Infidelity, misuse of marital assets, attempted fraud. "You're in the driver's seat," she said. "She'll get half the house proceeds, but nothing else. No alimony, no investments, no lake house." I nodded, but I wasn't celebrating. This wasn't about winning, it was about surviving. I started hearing whispers. Jocelyn's co-workers were icing her out after rumors of her affair spread. Her boss called her in for a performance review, code for "you're on thin ice." Damon's firm was circling the drain. 2 clients were jumping ship after his suspension hit the local legal blogs. The internet was doing its thing, with Reddit stories threads popping up about the Raleigh lawyer and his mistress. They didn't name Jocelyn, but the details were close enough to sting. I didn't start those threads, but I didn't stop them either. One night I was at a bar with the Iron Brotherhood sipping a double whiskey. Tom raised his glass. "To Joel, the guy who's rewriting his story." The others cheered, but I just smirked. "It's not over yet," I said. And it wasn't. I had one more move, something big. Something that would hit Jocelyn and Damon where it hurt most. Not violence, not vengeance, just the truth, sharp and cold, delivered with precision. I called Nate. "I want you to leak everything to Damon's firm, anonymously. Every text, every photo, every email. Let them see who he really is." Nate didn't hesitate. "Consider it done." By the next morning, the firm's ethics board had a package, a USB drive with Damon's greatest hits texts to Jocelyn, text to Vanessa. proof of his double life. I didn't need to see the fallout to know it was coming. Jocelyn tried one last time. She sent a long email 2 a.m. begging for a meeting. "I know I hurt you," she wrote. "But we can fix this. I'll do anything." I read it, then archived it. Rachel would love it for the case, more proof of her guilt. But I wasn't interested in fixing things. I was interested in moving forward. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Bold strokes, dark colors, canvases that screamed everything I wouldn't say out loud. Dr. Ellis called it reclaiming your power. I called it survival. The Iron Brotherhood invited me to a poker night, and for the first time in weeks, I laughed, really laughed. I was still Joel Candler, still standing, still building. But the game wasn't over. Damon was down, but not out. Jocelyn was scrambling, but she hadn't hit rock bottom, and me, I was just getting started. What would you do if you were me? Drop a comment. Let's hear your thoughts. The air in Raleigh was crisp that October morning, the kind of weather that makes you want to believe in fresh starts. I was up at 5 a.m. again, brewing black coffee in my loft, the city skyline just starting to glow beyond my window. My life had become a chess game, and I was 3 moves ahead. Jocelyn and Damon were scrambling their lies, unraveling like cheap thread, but I wasn't done. Not yet. This wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about justice, about taking back what was mine and building something stronger from the ashes. Nate Carver's USB drive had done its job. Damon's law firm didn't just suspend him, they fired him. The ethics board, armed with Nate's evidence, found enough to paint Damon as a liability, padded invoices, client complaints, and now a public affair that was bleeding into their reputation. By Monday, his name was scrubbed from their website. Nate got word that Damon was crashing at a buddy's condo, his Porsche long gone, replaced by a rental sedan. Lauren, his wife, wasn't playing nice either. Her lawyer had filed for everything, house savings, even his golf club membership. I didn't shed a tear. Damon had rolled the dice and lost. Jocelyn was feeling the heat too. With her credit cards frozen and her work reputation tanking, she was spiraling. Nate caught her arguing with her boss at a downtown cafe, something about unprofessional conduct. The rumors about her affair were spreading like wildfire, fueled by office gossip and those Reddit stories threads that were now calling her the marketing mistress. She'd lost Haley, her best friend, after my anonymous tip exposed Jocelyn's backstabbing. Her social circle was shrinking fast, and I knew it was only a matter of time before she cracked. I kept moving forward. My real estate deals were humming. Closed a $1.2 million commercial property that week, a strip mall with steady tenants. My income was holding strong at $750,000 a year, and with Rachel's legal maneuvering, my investments were locked tight. The lake house off limits to Jocelyn, thanks to the new locks and security system. I listed it for sale at $700,000, knowing it'd move fast. Every step I took was deliberate, like laying bricks for a new foundation. Dr. Ellis, my therapist, kept me grounded. "You're not just surviving," he said in our last session. "You're thriving. Keep that focus." But thriving didn't mean forgetting. Jocelyn's latest move was a letter, handwritten, slipped under my loft door at 6 a.m. "Joel, it started. I know I've lost you. I was stupid, selfish. Damon was a mistake, but you were my home. Please, let's meet. I'll sign whatever you want." Her words were a knife, not because I believed her, but because they reminded me of the woman I'd loved, the one who'd promised forever. I didn't reply. I handed the letter to Rachel, who added it to the evidence pile. "She's desperate," Rachel said. "This strengthens our case." The Iron Brotherhood, my gym crew, kept me sane. Over beers at a dive bar, Tom clapped me on the shoulder. "You're a damn legend, Joel. Most guys would have lost it. You're playing this like a pro." Greg, the quiet one, nodded. "Just don't let her drag you back. You're better than that." They were right. I wasn't going back. But I wasn't going to let Jocelyn and Damon walk away unscathed either. Nate's next report was a game changer. He'd tracked down Vanessa, Damon's paralegal side piece, and convinced her to talk. Over coffee at a greasy diner, she spilled everything. Damon had promised her a future, just like he'd promised Jocelyn. He'd bought her a $3,000 necklace charged to his firm's expense account naturally, and fed her lies about leaving both his wife and Jocelyn. Vanessa was furious, feeling used and ready to burn it all down. Nate, ever the strategist, got her to sign an affidavit detailing Damon's manipulation. It wasn't just about my divorce anymore. Damon's web of deceit was collapsing, and I was holding the strings. I decided to play my final card. I had Nate compile a dossier, every text, every photo, every email, plus Vanessa's affidavit. I didn't send it to Damon's firm, they'd already cut him loose. Instead, I targeted his network. Damon was a big talker, always name-dropping at Raleigh's high society events. I anonymously emailed the dossier to 3 of his biggest clients, real estate developers, who'd trusted him with million-dollar deals. The subject line, "Know who you're working with." By the end of the week, 2 of them had dropped him, and the third was reviewing their options. Damon's career was toast. Jocelyn's world was crumbling too. Her company put her on administrative leave after a client complained about her distraction on a major campaign. The truth was her affair was the talk of the office, and her boss couldn't ignore it anymore. Nate caught her moving out of our colonial house into a 1-bedroom apartment downtown, $1,800 a month, a far cry from the life she'd had with me. She was still driving her BMW, but I knew the payments were eating her alive without access to our joint accounts. The divorce hearing was set for mid-November. Rachel was ready to go nuclear. She'd built a case that was less a legal filing and more a guillotine: infidelity, misuse of marital assets, attempted fraud with the lake house scheme. "She's got nothing," Rachel said, flipping through her notes. "The judge will see her for what she is." I nodded, but a part of me still ached. Not for Jocelyn, but for the life I thought we'd have. 12 years. Gone. The day before the hearing, Jocelyn showed up at my office unannounced. I was mid-meeting with a tenant, but she barged in, eyes wild. "Joel, we need to talk," she said, voice shaking. My assistant tried to stop her, but I waved him off. "5 minutes," I said, leaning back in my chair. She looked like a ghost of herself, hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing a sweater that hung loose on her frame. "I'm sorry," she started, tears spilling. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. Damon, he made me feel alive again. You were always working, always busy. I felt invisible." I let her talk, let her pour out her excuses. When she finished, I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. "You felt invisible," I said, voice low. "I gave you everything. The house, the trips, the freedom. You didn't just betray me, you tried to take what I built. You don't get to play the victim here." She sobbed, reaching for my arm, but I stepped back. "Sign the papers, Jocelyn. It's over." She left, head down, and I didn't watch her go. The hearing was quick, surgical. Rachel presented our case like a general going to war. The judge, a grizzled man in his 60s, didn't blink at the evidence photos from room 712. The lake house footage, Damon's texts about selling my property, Vanessa's affidavit. Jocelyn's lawyer tried to spin it, claimed she was emotionally vulnerable, but the judge wasn't buying it. "Mrs. Candler," he said, peering over his glasses, "your actions show a clear disregard for the marital estate." The ruling was brutal. No alimony, house sold and proceeds split 50-50, my investments and lake house untouched. Jocelyn got her BMW and $150,000 from our joint savings. That was it. She walked out of the courtroom alone, her face blank. Damon's life was in freefall too. His clients were gone, his firm blacklisted him, and Lauren's divorce left him with nothing but a rented studio and a mountain of debt. Vanessa, the paralegal, went public on a local gossip blog, spilling details about his lies without naming me. The internet dubbed him Raleigh's sleaziest lawyer, and the moniker stuck. I didn't start the fire, but I didn't put it out either. I sold the colonial house for $875,000, my half going straight into a new investment fund. The lake house sold for $720,000, every cent mine. I moved into a new loft downtown, $1 million floor-to-ceiling windows, a view that reminded me I was still standing. I kept painting my canvases, now brighter, bolder. The Iron Brotherhood threw a new beginnings barbecue at Tom's place, and for the first time in months I felt light. Not happy, not yet, but free. One Sunday I wandered into a local bookstore, browsing for something to read on a flight to Miami for a property deal. A woman was there, mid-30s, glasses perched on her nose, flipping through a biography. "Good book?" I asked, half smiling. She looked up, her eyes warm but sharp. "Depends," she said. "You into history or just pretending?" I laughed, and we talked about books, then life, then nothing in particular. Her name was Claire, a history professor with a dry wit and no patience for nonsense. We exchanged numbers, no pressure, just possibility. I didn't dive in head first. I wasn't ready. But that moment, that spark, it reminded me I wasn't done living. Jocelyn and Damon were chapters in my story, not the whole book. I'd walked through fire, come out scarred but stronger. Dr. Ellis said it best, you didn't just survive, Joel. You rebuilt. That's power. As I sit here now sipping coffee, looking out at Raleigh's skyline, I know this story isn't just mine. It's for every guy who's been blindsided, who's had to pick up the pieces and keep going. It's not about hate or vengeance. It's about taking back your life one deliberate step at a time. I'm still Joel Candler, still building, still forging. And I'm not done yet. You're here because this story meant something. Don't scroll away without leaving a like, a thought, and your subscription. Revenge Forge is where real stories find their voice and yours. What would you have done differently? How do you rebuild after betrayal? Drop your thoughts below. I'm listening.